It started with a simple act of kindness. A woman kneeling on a busy sidewalk, helping a stranger in need, while the world hurried past without a second glance. But before she could even stand up, flashing lights, aggressive shouting, accusations. One moment she was offering help. The next, she was treated like a criminal. What the officer didn't know? The man she was helping wasn't just grateful, he was powerful. And what came next would change everything. Stay with me, because you won't believe how fast the tables turned. Tasha's morning had already been a battlefield. Coffee splashed onto her white blouse, her laptop bag slipping from her shoulder, and a relentless clock ticking closer to an important meeting she couldn't afford to miss. Every instinct screamed for her to push forward, to stay locked into the frantic pace of the Monday rush. She had no room for anything or anyone else. But then she saw him. Kneeling beside a battered sedan, barely holding it together, was a young white man, no older than his late 20s. His hands fumbled uselessly with the jack. Blood trickled down from a small cut on his forehead, and his knuckles were scraped raw. He wasn't just struggling, he was drowning in the chaos, completely invisible to the river of people who flowed past without a second glance. Something inside Tasha shifted. She hesitated for just a moment, then set down her coffee, her bag, and her urgency. She approached calmly, voice steady and kind. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him like they were old friends instead of complete strangers. The man flinched slightly, startled by her presence, then tried to muster a sheepish smile. He wiped his dirt-streaked hands on his jeans. "Yeah, just bad morning. I think I hit a curb and messed up my tire. I have no clue what I'm doing." Tasha chuckled softly, the sound like a warm breeze cutting through the morning chill. "It's all right," she said, flashing a reassuring grin. "I've changed a few tires in my day. Let's get you sorted before the day gets any worse." She rolled up her sleeves with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen her share of storms and survived them all. But as she crouched beside the car, fingers working deftly to find the jack point, Tasha didn't notice the glint of sunlight bouncing off a windshield across the street. Didn't see the slow, deliberate pull-over of a black-and-white cruiser just a few yards away. Because in that moment, all that mattered was helping someone who needed help. No second-guessing, no assumptions, no hesitation. Because that's who Tasha was, someone who chose kindness even when the world chose indifference. And in the next few seconds, that choice would cost her more than she could have ever imagined. Sometimes it's the small moments, like stopping to help a stranger, that reveal who we really are. And trust me, you're going to want to see how this moment explodes into something no one expected. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss the powerful twist that's coming. The sharp screech of tires shattered the moment. Tasha's head snapped up instinctively. A police cruiser, its lights flashing like angry fists, skidded to a stop just feet away from them. Before the car had fully settled, a tall officer in dark sunglasses burst out, his hand already hovering near his weapon, ready, suspicious, itching for a confrontation. "You! Step away from the vehicle!" he barked, his voice slicing through the morning air like broken glass. Tasha froze for a fraction of a second, heart hammering against her ribs. She straightened up slowly, palms instinctively open, confusion written across her face. "I'm just helping him," she began, her voice steady but cautious. "Hands where I can see them." The officer cut her off, his shout so sharp it made passers-by flinch. His stance was aggressive, chest puffed, boots stomping toward her like she was already guilty of something unspeakable. The young man stammered, stepping forward. "Officer, it's not. She's helping me." "Quiet," the officer roared, silencing him with a wave of his hand. He never even looked at the man. His entire focus, his entire rage, was locked on Tasha, a black woman, kneeling beside a white man's car. In his mind, the verdict was already in. He didn't need facts. He didn't want explanations. Carjacking? Theft? He spat the words like venom, inching closer with every accusation. Tasha lifted her hands higher, breathing slow and deep, every movement deliberate. She knew this drill. She had lived this reality. And in that moment, she understood. No amount of kindness, no amount of calm, could shield her from a badge worn by the wrong person. "I don't even know this man's name," she said quietly, her voice anchored in a forced calm that betrayed the wildfire of fear burning inside her. "I just stopped to help." The officer's lip curled in disgust, his face twisted by prejudice he wasn't even trying to hide. "Yeah, sure," he sneered. "Help yourself to his car, right?" Around them, the street seemed to shift. People slowed down, sensing the growing storm. Phones came out, silent witnesses desperate not to intervene, but eager to record. Whispers rippled through the air, a chorus of unease. But no one moved to help her. No one except one person. The man she had stopped to help, still holding the bloody rag against his forehead, stepped forward again. And this time, when he spoke, it wasn't a stammer. It was something else entirely. Something that would turn the world upside down in a single sentence. One snap judgment, one moment of prejudice, and the officer thought he was in control. But the real story? It's just getting started. If you believe that the truth always finds a way out, subscribe now and stay with me. You're about to see justice strike when it's least expected. For a moment, it felt like the world held its breath. The young man, still wiping blood from his forehead, straightened his posture with an ease that didn't match the chaos around him. His shaking hands stilled, his timid expression hardened into something sharper, unyielding. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a small card, flashing it in the officer's stunned face. Not a police badge, something far heavier, a Department of Justice identification card. The crowd murmured, phones craning closer. "Agent Matthew Cole," he said, his voice slicing through the thick tension like a blade. "Federal Oversight Division, and you, officer." He took a deliberate step closer. "Just made the biggest mistake of your career." The officer's jaw slackened. His hand, once rigid on his weapon, fell limply to his side, as if the very weight of his wrongdoing had finally crushed it. Matthew didn't hesitate. He didn't stammer. He didn't ask for permission. He commanded the moment. "This woman," he said, gesturing toward Tasha, his voice booming now for everyone to hear, "was helping me. Witnesses saw everything. And you." His finger stabbed through the air, sharp as a dagger. "Profiled and harassed an innocent citizen because of nothing more than the color of her skin." A ripple moved through the crowd. Mouths dropped open. Phones zoomed in. No one was walking away now. The officer stuttered, his body inching backward like he could somehow escape the truth, but Matthew cut him off without mercy. "By the authority vested in me, you are hereby placed under investigation for misconduct, racial profiling, and abuse of power." His words hit like a judge's gavel. "Surrender your weapon and badge right now." The officer's hands, so steady minutes ago, shook uncontrollably. His entire body deflated, the false armor of arrogance peeling off in strips. He opened his mouth to protest, but the crowd surged forward, their cameras capturing every humiliating second. There was no escape, no spin, no rescue, only consequences. In front of dozens of silent, watchful witnesses, the officer slowly unclipped his badge, placed it on the ground, unbuckled his gun, laid it down, too. And then, for the first time that day, he bowed his head. Not in honor, not in respect, but in pure, undeniable shame. A simple act of kindness just exposed a system built on bias. And trust me, it doesn't stop here. Smash that subscribe button right now, because the fallout you're about to witness, it's bigger than just one officer. It's a wake-up call. Sirens pierced the heavy silence, drawing closer by the second. Within minutes, multiple police cruisers flooded the scene, red and blue lights washing over the stunned crowd, painting faces in flashes of justice. But this time, they weren't here to protect the guilty. They came to listen, to document, to collect the shattered remains of a man who thought his badge was a license for bias, rather than a duty to protect. Tasha stood quietly off to the side, her hands still slightly trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper. A storm of emotions she had carried for years, finally breaking open into a wave of validation. Matthew approached her, his face no longer that of a federal agent, but simply a man offering something rare in moments like this: genuine respect. "I'm so sorry you had to experience that," he said, his voice low but steady, the weight of the moment heavy between them. Tasha's throat tightened. She managed a small, brave nod. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me." Matthew's smile was brief but real, a shared understanding between two people who knew that real change starts when someone decides to see what others refuse to. "The world," he said, his voice carrying just enough for the cameras to catch it, "needs more people like you, and a lot fewer like him." Behind them, the disgraced officer was led away, his head low, his future uncertain. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't boo. They simply watched, a silent testimony that sometimes the loudest statement you can make is refusing to look away. As the flashing lights faded and the last whispers died down, Tasha didn't leave in anger. She didn't leave in bitterness. She simply turned back to the task she had started, with dirt on her hands, strength in her spine, and quiet dignity radiating from every move. She finished changing the tire. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't rage or retaliation, it's simply standing tall, doing what's right, and never letting hate stop you from being who you are. And as Tasha tightened the last bolt, the cameras still rolling, one truth became crystal clear. Real justice doesn't always come with flashing lights. Sometimes it looks like an ordinary hero doing an extraordinary thing. Even when the world isn't watching, kindness is powerful. But what Tasha learned that day is that kindness can also expose. It exposes the hidden heroes and the hidden villains. Tasha wasn't trying to start a revolution. She wasn't there to prove a point. She just saw someone who needed help, and she chose to act simple, human, real. But when the world tried to punish her for her compassion, something incredible happened. The truth didn't just come to light, it exploded. In the middle of a chaotic street, surrounded by flashing lights, trembling hands, and recording phones, Tasha's courage and one unexpected ally sparked a moment that would ripple far beyond that sidewalk. A reminder that every action counts, that silence speaks, and that justice has a way of finding its voice, even in the most unlikely moments. As for the officer, let's just say, what happened next would change more than just his career. It would shake the entire department. But that's a story for another time. Want to find out how deep the consequences went? How one act of courage forced a system to face itself? Hit that subscribe button, because when justice starts rolling, it doesn't stop. It only gets louder. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.